Mikey. How you doing?
What's up, Governor?
Not much. You ready for your interview?
Still ready. Born ready.
All right. And on that note, welcome to another episode of The King's Couch. I'm your host, Sulo King. And today is my first call-in interview with anyone. And my special guest today is Levinson, a.k.a. Mikey. And he is a musician and is it a psychotherapist?
It is a psychotherapist, particularly the psycho part.
Okay. He'll explain a little more about what he does in just a second. But I go back way back to my youth with Mikey, from being in the music scene together with him. And he's got a very incredible story to tell about, growing up in San Diego, his time in, the San Diego music industry, playing in bands, such notable acts as Agent 51, and then moving all across country and starting a new chapter of his life, and which he's done in the last decade. So, Mikey, let's go back to the beginning on how you got into music. Let's start there.
All right, let's do it. So when I was a little kid, I had two older brothers. My oldest brother was about 10 years older than me. The middle brother was about 4. So I would hang out with the middle brother a lot. And, him being a little older, he was like in high school, getting into music. I guess it wasn't high school back then, we were tiny kids. But whatever grade he was in, he was getting into all this rad music. And he was listening to, early Danzig, early Metallica, Guns N' Roses. And I was just this little impressionable kid that didn't know what the hell was going on. And I heard this music, and it just changed my life, honestly. It's like when you hear something that's so incredibly amazing and impactful, and it just opens up all these different possibilities in your brain. That's sort of how I felt. And so after that, he kind of started playing bass shortly after. And I remember my mom asking me if I wanted to play anything, and I immediately answered drums. There was no thought went into it. I didn't have to figure out what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to play the drums. I really couldn't tell you why. That's just what I wanted to do. So I started taking lessons. I think I was 8 or 9 years old when I started taking lessons, and I'm so glad that I did it that way, because lessons, albeit super boring at first, they provide a really strong foundation for knowing what you're doing and being able to do it right. When you start getting into some of the more advanced stuff. So yeah, that was the intro for me.
Right on, man. How old were you when you first started playing in bands?
Ooh, that's a great question, man. So just to clarify for the listeners, I was born on the East Coast, and I moved to San Diego when I was, I think 10 or 11 or something like that. I think it was around 90,
okay.
1990s or something like that. So when I moved across, I did drums were my life at that point. It was what was compelling me and interesting me. And so I started 7th grade at Twin Peaks Middle School in San Diego, and I was in the school band program was my shit. So through that, I was doing orchestral band and jazz band. In high school, I did 1 year of marching band, and then when I figured out that marching band was fucking awful and a crock of shit, I hopped out of there and I started playing with friends, jamming covers of punk rock tunes and, maybe loosely trying to put together our own songs at that point. Right. But it was mostly, drinking and smoking and having fun and playing covers of Ever Ready songs and stuff like that.
Right on. Ever Ready's Rad.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in quite some time.
Yeah, they go back, man. They go back, but that is what I remember. Like, you know, Soma back in those early days for me, as I'm sure it was for you, was super life changing. And I was down at Soma with my friends like every single weekend, either watching local bands or bigger bands or like, you know, Fat Records bands or whatever it was. It was super duper exciting. And when we stumbled upon a local band that we thought was awesome, you know, that was like a pretty exciting thing. And I've already kind of had it going on back in the day. You know, I don't know if you remember the like the Fair Play 7-inch and a lot of that older punk stuff they were doing. It was pretty sick. So yeah, we'd have some beers and jam out Eveready tunes in our parents' living room.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of how we all started out. My father was really supportive of me playing guitar and wanting to be in a band, so he's very influential in the early days for me, myself. But before we get into Agent 51, did you have any like serious bands before you joined up with those guys?
That is a good question. And I'm trying to think. I don't think I really did. You know, I would jam with my buddies, and we would like, we kind of got to the point where we started putting together songs, but we weren't really serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
I did play in one band. This is going to be bringing it way back, and this is like almost sort of embarrassing, but I was in a band called Uncle Stiltskin, right? Which probably is, we're probably more notable for our stickers that like were everywhere around town on every street sign. And we worked on our music, but we were like this, you know, it was like during like the Korn era, and it was like one of those bands.
Right.
You know, and it was actually pretty fun. That was a cool experience, but that actually led to me meeting, or not really meeting, but like getting more involved with the Agent dudes. I mean, I went to school with Chris Arms, so we, you know, we knew each other. We weren't like best buds, but we hung out in the same crowd. And he came by one day when Stiltskin was having some kind of a rehearsal, and he saw me play drums, and I remember him being super psyched and being like, dude, that's what we need, like, in our band. Like, we need somebody with like passion that like hits the drums and, you know, is super into it. And I don't know, I think I made a mental note of that, you know. And at that point in time, there were a few different San Diego bands that were starting to come up, you know, that were really starting to put in the work, and you could see that they were serious, and they were releasing some, you know, some demos and sounding good. In the back of my mind, I kind of thought to myself, you know, Agent they're putting out some really great stuff, but I have a feeling one day they're going to need a new drummer, and maybe I'll be that guy, you know. And as luck would have it, I ended up being that guy. So.
What year was it when you joined Agent 51?
I'm pretty sure it was 1999.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
that was like right before I started working at Kane. So I didn't really know you then, per se. I think I met you more in the Kane's era when you first started jamming with them. Because I go back to the early Soma days. I think the first time I even saw Agent 51 was Soma main stage. And I just remember them coming out in these suits with these serious looks on their faces and, you know, sunglasses on. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then that drum roll and guitar riff in the Red Alert just captivated me from there, and I was hooked ever since. And I've always been a big supporter and big fan of Agent 51. And especially when you joined, you brought a whole nother dynamic, in my opinion, to the band. You have a very interesting and unique style of the way you play. I've never seen anyone play like you before. Very high energy, and very dynamic. It's been a while since I've seen you play, but very entertaining to watch.
Well, thank you, Sulo. I appreciate that. You know, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the Red Alert stuff, because I have a unique experience of not being on that record, right? So they had Rob Hunter in the band that played drums on that full-length Red Alert album. So it's like I got to be a fan of the band before I joined it, you know, which is really super interesting. You know, I can look back at that Red Alert album and say, you know, wow, I can appreciate this for being this, you know, sloppy, you know, just produced enough record, you know, that they did in, I'm pretty sure, a weekend or something like that. That shines because of the songwriting and because of the energy and you know, the work that they put into it. It's just a really fantastic record. And
Right.
you know, when I joined, it was super fun to be able to play those songs and kind of add a little bit of spark to it, and you know, try to tighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, and you definitely put your own spin on things, and that's, you know, definitely memorable, especially when you guys reunite to play. Because you guys disbanded in, what year was it? Like 2005? Is that right?
Something like that. I think it's 2004, 2005.
Yeah, around that time. And let's get into the whole Agent 51 experience for you. Let's talk about, you know, you joining the band, and you were a member of that band until it became an incarnation of mixed members of Pivot, and they made Chris Arms ended up leaving, and then the name change was 51 Guns originally, and then that eventually molded into Arm the Angels.
Yeah, such an interesting story. You know, and I could probably tell that story in about 15 hours if we had it. You know what I mean? But
well, we only got 50 minutes, so.
to sum it up, I'll say, you know, let's call maybe like 99 to 2004 like the classic era of Agent 51, where we had a pretty solid lineup of dudes that were all on the same page, right? We're playing shows all the time. We're doing out-of-town shows. We're very focused on working on the same thing. You know, throughout that process, so many different things happened, so many like ups and downs. It's actually kind of unbelievable to think back and realize that it was only 5 years that all this stuff really took place, you know, because it's like we were doing the independent touring. You know, we signed to Adeline Records, which was exciting. We won the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands, you know, at Warped Tour 2000 or 2001 or something like that. You know, we ended up signing to Surf Dog Records after that. We went on tour with Slightly Stupid and Pepper. You know, we had a rad booking agent. Just so much stuff happened within that 5 years, and it was very fast, very furious, and you know, eventually the machine just broke down. I think we were young kids. We didn't know what we were doing. We had a manager that was like desperately trying to keep us focused and keep us on track and let us know that everything was going to be okay. You know, but life happens. You know, if you think about the fact that we were all probably like, you know, early mid-20s when things were starting to tank, around that time, there's a lot of expectations, you know, and a lot of weight that fall upon your shoulders. It's like you're trying to be an adult, you're trying to find your way in the world. You know, and some dudes in the band, you know, were really feeling that pressure, you know, and I think that absolutely positively led to our separation from Chris for that period of time, you know, where he stepped out. And, you know, the rest of us, rather than just being mature, you know, learned individuals and being like, look, Agent 51 is us, right? It's these four dudes. We don't want to compromise that. We're going to support, you know, you and whoever needs the support, and we're always going to be there. Instead, we were like, well, fuck, we've been working at this for so long. We can't see anything else. I mean, I personally couldn't see anything else. And I wanted to stay on the road. I wanted to stay playing. You know, the remaining guys wanted to at least try to do the same thing. So, you know, we brought in another guitar player, you know, and the idea was to move Eric Davis up to lead vocals and then bring in another, you know, shredding guitar player to kind of like fill the gap and add a little something to the band. And for that, we recruited Arnold Graham, who was a longtime friend of mine. I knew him almost the entire time. I lived in San Diego. But yeah, that was just fate. I was at the Elephant Bar in Rancho Bernardo. You can tell me if that place is even still there anymore. You know, I don't know if it is or not, but I was there having a drink with my then either girlfriend or fiance or something like that. I'm once divorced, so I don't remember at that time what my status was with her, but we were there having a drink, and Arnold was just like in the corner at some table, and I thought it was super serendipitous. I was like, look, dude, I'm in this band, you know, and we've got some stuff going on. We've been touring. We want to stay on the road, but, you know, our singer, you know, can't do it right now. Would you be interested? And he was just like all for it. It was the easiest thing ever, you know, and Arnold is such an accomplished guitarist. It's like learning how to play our songs, which are all bar chords with like a couple, you know, little leads here and there. It wasn't difficult for him to do. Mm. So Arnold jumped on, and we did some touring with Arnold, with Slightly Stupid and Pepper. Had a ton of fun. You know, all the memories I have of going on those tours were all fantastic, you know, for the most part. You know, but after doing that for about a year, I think we all just realized that something was missing. You know, like the magic was gone. And I hate using that word because some people are just going to be like, oh, there's the magic. What the fuck is this guy talking about? But when you're in a band with four guys and it works, there's something that you can't identify, like a certain chemistry that is present. And when you remove one person from that equation, sometimes that feeling just isn't there anymore. And that's the way it was without Chris. So we started talking about it, and we didn't want to play the Agent stuff and go on as Agent 51 without Chris. It just didn't seem like the right thing to do.
Right.
So, you know, we came up with the idea to do a side project, you know, with Arnold, but we wanted to try to retain some of the interest in some of the fan base. And that's where 51 Guns came in.
Okay.
Which eventually evolved to Arm the Angels.
Yeah. So when Chris Arms decided to leave Agent 51, was it on amicable terms?
We were fighting for a little bit. Okay. You know, I think there were some daggers thrown every which direction. And thinking back on it now, it's like that's actually one of the more beautiful and telling experiences I've had, because I think a lot of bands go through difficult times like that and they don't know how to handle it, they don't know how to cope, and they just implode and they go their separate ways, and that's sort of the end of friendships too. But it speaks to, you know, the bond that we had within Agent 51,
right? Because
we were all able to overcome that and retain our friendships, and, you know, if not, make our friendships even stronger after that. So it's definitely something that I'm proud of.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll have Chris Arms on this show sometime in the near future, so he can share his side of the story and what he's been up to. He just recently put out a really rad EP and has gone in more of a solo direction. And he's doing very well. Actually, I'm going to be seeing him a little later today, so he wanted me to say hi to you and wish you well. But yeah, so let's go back to Agent 51 for a second. So when you left the group, that's when they evolved into Arm the Angels, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay. And you know, that whole thing, that departure for me was another, and that was a really difficult time, man. Like, all those changes going on, you know, Agent falling apart, trying to form something else, coming up with 51 Guns, demoing out some songs that, you know, we thought were awesome. You know, I still think those songs were really cool. But then things just started slipping. Like, the band wanted to go in a different direction than I wanted to go in. I saw 51 Guns as being like sort of a breakneck rock and roll band. You know, I wanted to be down and dirty, lots of guitars, solos, lots of like cool instrumental parts. And I think that's how it started. But then, you know, as always, like those wonderful like industry pressures start creeping in, and people want to cut songs down 2 minutes, and they want to take out solos, and they want to take out musical interludes, and the bad taste increased very quickly for me. And you know, I just decided to jump ship because I didn't think it was going to be going in a good direction.
Yeah, it just sounded like it just, like you said, the magic wasn't there anymore. And I know exactly how you feel. I've been doing my own band, Authentic Sellout, for the last 15 years. I'm the only continual original member. And it wasn't up until 2014 when my co-founding member, Andy, rejoined the group again. I mean, he was kind of helping me behind the scenes with songwriting and whatnot, but he was like my songwriting partner, you know. And when he left, I felt like a lot of that magic left with him. And he's kind of like the glue that holds this crazy mold together. And for all those listeners out there, being in a band is like being in a relationship with, you know, 4 or 5 guys or whoever, how many members you have in your ensemble. It's not easy. It's like being in a marriage, and there's a lot of commitment, and you're going to have good times and you're going to have bad times. And it's definitely, you know, not always the fun rock and roll experience that it's portrayed as to most people. I mean, that's just a total stereotype. And not all of us are burned out on drugs either. That's also another stereotype. But
most of us are.
Yeah, but most of us are. But anyways, a lot of us sober up in the end. And what I was going to say is, you know, when you left Agent 51 and it evolved into Arm the Angels, that's when I kind of stepped in. I think I had booked you guys at Brick by Brick near your tail end of being, you know, and that incarnation of Agent 51. And then I was just blown away by Arnie. He just has an amazing voice. He's a very talented guitar player, and I just saw potential there. And I had already known Eric, so, you know, I ended up producing or executively producing one full-length album for them, and I almost had a deal with Virgin Records set up for them, which is a whole nother story and tragedy in itself. Long story short, Arnie like overproduced the hell out of that CD and, you know, ruined the chances. They wanted more of that raw kind of, you know, rancidy punk rock meets classic rock feel that they brought to the table. And you know, that back then in the mid-2000s is when indie rock really exploded. I saw this common trend happen to a lot of bands where they started trying to, you know, musically mature, I guess if you want to say it, their music, and it didn't always work out like for the best. You know, there's nothing wrong with like musically maturing or trying new things out, but when you have a good thing going, like, why mess with it? You know what I mean? And
I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, and that, you know, takes me to my next part of Agent 51 I want to discuss is how you guys ended up getting back together for all these reunion gigs you guys have been doing on and off over the years. And when did that start?
So I'm usually really, really bad with dates and times and years, so I'm not going to be able to pinpoint that. But, you know, I don't know. Like I said, we became friends again, and we started talking, and we realized that we still enjoyed hanging out with each other. And I don't know where the idea for a reunion, I don't know where it was birthed, but I'm pretty sure the first one we did, I mean, almost all the reunion shows that we did were with Pivot. And I'm pretty sure the first one was at the Belly Up. I think the first like 2 or 3 were at the Belly Up.
Right.
But you know, I really think in the end it was really just all about the friendship and the brotherhood and realizing there was still something there. You know, because at that point you're not doing it to sell CDs. You're not doing it to try to get on the radio. You're just out there playing your music, connecting with, you know, friends, fans, and family, you know, and having a good time. And that's really what it's all about. You know, all that music industry stuff that we were just talking about and all the pressure that comes with it and how it affects bands and bands start writing songs, trying to, capture a particular sound, or trying to write stuff that's going to be pleasing to the ears of label people. That stuff fucking destroys bands.
Mm-hmm.
If the best bands, in my opinion, get together because they are friends, because they fucking love each other, and they want to create something awesome. They want to create something beautiful, and they get together and they write and they have fun, and in the end, the product is a reflection of all that took place. And that just can't happen when you're trying to please a label guy, or when you're trying to get on the radio, or if you're trying to be poppy enough. It's just bullshit. So I think that the reunion shows are definitely a reflection of, hey, this is us. This is why we were doing it in the first place. Let's get together with people that we really enjoy being around and just have good times.
And that's really cool that you also paired up with other, Poway's, another Poway local band and hometown hero band, Pivot, when you guys reunite. That seems to be like your main buddy band.
100%. Pivot is great. We played so many shows with those dudes. Great friends with those dudes. We did a lot of college shows with those guys too, that I'm not sure if anyone's aware with, but we used to go up to LA all the time and play like frat parties. And it was so much fun. But yeah, those dudes they're family, and we were on a lot of similar releases, like there were some surf compilations and stuff like that both of our bands were featured on. And I think in the beginning, obviously, I mean, it was rooted in friendship, but like we also had the same fan base, so it just made sense, right? Like if we were going to play a show, we could play it alone and bring on some other local bands that were like stylistically similar, or we could play a show with Pivot and basically be guaranteed that we're going to have a bigger turnout, right. Because people get to come to the show and not just see us, or not just see Pivot, but see both of us together, with a couple other local bands. So it just made sense for every reason. And side note, Chris Lewis from Pivot is my best friend on planet Earth. So that also made a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So post Agent 51 and, in between all these reunions, what other musical projects have you guys, or sorry, what am I saying? Have you been up to?
So let me see. After Agent, I joined the Megas from Los Angeles with Agent 51 bass player Greg Schneider.
Okay.
And that was a ton of fun. Coming out of Agent, I didn't know if I was going to be able to really engage in a band again and feel accomplished or successful. Like Agent was just such a giant mountain to climb. So coming out of Agent, I was a little sad, dude. I was a little depressed, and I kind of felt like my musical career was, maybe over for the most part. And then, I'm talking to Greg, and he's like, yeah, we got this band in LA called the Megas, and we play all Mega Man songs from Nintendo. Like we take the music and we make it into rock songs. And I was a huge Mega Man fan as a kid, and I thought it was such a wild idea. And I listened to their demos, and they were solid. Like they were really solid, and they had a lot of promise. And so I drove up to LA and I jammed with them, and that was another one of those magic moments where it was like, holy fuck, like I think this could really be something cool.
Right.
So, and that was just more magic in my life, man. The Megas turned into like an international success. I mean, it's a super niche thing, right? Because it's a video game band. But we kind of did something that no other video game band was doing, or at least not to my knowledge. All right, if there's another one out there, don't be mad at me. But like, we didn't just play the music. We took the music, we crafted it into rock songs, and we added vocals to it. So it was like the full band experience. And it was very well received. We started playing a lot of conventions on the East Coast because, at least at that time, there was just seemed to be more interest and demand for video game stuff on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna say, and I noticed that like these days, like the whole video game rock is even bigger than ever. There's so many like different incarnations of bands. There's like one called I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they do like all Super Nintendo and Nintendo games, and for the most part, they're just all instrumental. So what you guys were doing with the Megas is putting your own original spin on things, you know, rather than, you know, just trying to, you know, replicate the music, but in your genre, you know what I mean? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was so much fun. You know, and those are fun dudes to be hanging out with too. But I was doing that from 2006 until 2012, and then I left the Megas and I went back to school after that. So the Megas are still a band. They're still doing their thing, and they've branched out. Now they not only do Mega Man songs, but they also do Castlevania songs.
Oh, bitchin'. Another fun franchise as well. And for Castlevania fans, there's a new rebooted series coming out, I think, on Netflix pretty soon. I was just reading about that.
Cool.
But cool. So let's talk a little bit about how you transitioned from San Diego to the East Coast. And where are you originally from? You weren't born and raised in San Diego, were you?
No, I was born and raised in like Rockland County, New York.
Okay.
In a little town called Japan, New York. So it's like you know, suburb outside of New York City.
Okay. And how old were you when you moved to San Diego?
I was like 10 or 11. I started 7th grade.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's how I gauge it. Yeah.
Interesting. And then what was like the deciding factor of why you wanted to leave to go back to the East Coast?
Dude, it was like pressures, man. Like just life was kind of like folding in on me at that point. You know, my life and my identity had all been music and drummer and touring, and I thought that's what I would be doing. You know, ideally that's what I'd be doing for the rest of my life and for a career. But you know, when that didn't pan out and it wasn't paying the bills anymore, I had to figure something out, you know, and I started feeling that, you know, in my core. You know, when you start feeling like you're behind the curve, that's when you really start manifesting like anxiety and depression and like, you know, all these really hard negative emotions. And I was really feeling it. And, you know, I started going out and hanging out with my friends, doing the usual shit, you know, drinking and fucking around, and it got to a point where it was really just not working for me anymore. You know, there's only so many shots you can take and so many, you know, dick jokes you can hear from your buddies before you get the urge to move on and do something more, you know?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Not that there's anything wrong with shots or dick jokes.
Not saying that there is. Yeah, so that's interesting. So you just picked up and just left all of a sudden.
I did. I was compelled to do something differently, and I knew that I needed some kind of massive change in my life. So I sold everything that I owned, or at least like 90 to 95% of my possessions. Liquidated everything, threw the rest in the back of my Jeep, and I drove across country to Richmond, Virginia. And that was a wild experience in itself because I didn't have much in Richmond. You know, I was dating a girl out there that I had met when I did a convention with the Megas. So it's like I knew her. I had gone out there a few times, so like I knew that I liked Richmond. And I knew it was way more affordable than San Diego. But that's really all I knew. So I applied to college in Virginia before I left, but I had not been accepted by the time I left. Like I didn't know whether I was going to get in or not. I just wanted to apply in case I had to get in. And I figured if I got in, then I'll go to college and do all that shit. If I don't get in, I'll find a job, and at least my cost of living will be way more doable. So I drove across, I found a little place, and then I ended up getting into college. So I got my undergrad at VCU out there in Richmond, Virginia Commonwealth University, which was a really, really enjoyable experience. Great school, super diverse. Richmond is like just an amazing ride place, super fun. Highly recommend going there.
Right on. And what made you choose your major?
So my major was psychology, and I chose psychology because there was just literally nothing else that I could picture myself doing. There's nothing else I was even remotely interested in. So, I don't know. And that was just something that was inherent to me. I figured go and learn about the human psyche and the way that the brain works and human behaviors and see what happens when I get out. And, I was 33 when I went back to school and really applied myself.
Right.
And that experience, really, really helped me in the long run. So, if there's any older dudes out there that are like thinking about going back to school, but you think you're too old, that's totally bullshit. If I had gone when I was younger, I probably would have failed out of every class, and I just would have been a drunk, high fucking mess.
Right.
When I went back at 33, I focused on what I was doing. I took it seriously. And I got like straight A's and 2 B's the entire time I was in school. My class rank, I graduated like 23 out of 1,500 people or something like that. So that was, wow. People road raging over here.
I could hear that.
Yeah, then I realized they're interrupting a very important interview.
Well, I think they're just excited for you right now.
Yeah, they must have heard, and they're just really proud of me.
But anyway.
But yeah. So it was just good. I was able to focus and get the job done and do it well. But still have fun. I was still going out on the weekends and hanging out with my friends and partying and doing stupid shit. But during the week, I was going to school and doing a good job at my studies. So that was a great experience. And then I graduated, and straight out of graduation, I started working, and it didn't take any time at all for me to realize that I had to go to grad school, because with a psychology degree, I wasn't earning shit. Like, they want to pay you nothing to do a ton of work. So rather than waste any more time, I immediately started applying to grad schools. And for whatever reason, again, I don't know if it was just predestined, but I knew that I wanted to be a psychotherapist. And coming out of, the psychology degree, I did have a couple of different options. I could have pursued, a graduate degree in social work. I could have been a mental health counselor. I could have, or I could have done psychotherapy. And I just knew that I wanted to be someone that was helping people on sort of like a one-on-one kind of basis. And I also knew that I didn't want to get stuck doing social work kind of shit, because that was just not my jam at all. So I decided to be a therapist, and I did my due diligence. I checked out colleges all around the country. I didn't have any one particular spot in mind. I just wanted to find some place that was, somewhat affordable and that had a good program. So long story short, I found Fairfield University in Connecticut that has a great program for marriage and family therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And I started doing that in 2016. I was pretty much done mid-2018, but I didn't get handed my diploma until January 2019. But I was doing clinical stuff since like January 2017. So effectively, I've been working with people one-on-one as a therapist since 2017.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Nice. And how has that experience really impacted your life?
I've learned so much. It's been just completely overwhelming and eye-opening and amazing. I knew that I needed a job or, a career where I wasn't just mindlessly making money in a cubicle for some corporation that didn't give a fuck about me.
Mm.
And if there's anyone out there that's what you do and you love it, that's fine. That's, you know what I mean? If that is enjoyable for you and that's your thing, then live your life. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I really had this need to be connecting with people and helping people. At the end of the day, I had to know that I was doing something that meant something, at least to me. So therapy has given me the ability to do that. Out of grad school, I worked at a residential drug rehab for a year, which was just a crazy training, pain in the ass experience. But I connected with a lot of people. I got to encourage a lot of people to change their lives and live their best lives and let them know that there was more out there if they looked for it. That's just everything to me, and the fact that I'm able to sort of do that on a daily basis now, and I'm not working in drug rehab anymore. I'm in a small group practice in the Hudson Valley, New York, and we see all kinds of clients. It's like I see individuals, I see couples, I see parole and probation clients, but at the end of the day, it's still one person connecting with another person, and helping them realize that they do have potential and that life doesn't have to be, a big dark cloud. There is life if we push through the sadness, if we enact change and we work towards better things, we can absolutely positively change our circumstances and our outcomes. So it's been a really, really beautiful experience.
Right on, man. It really sounds like it's changed your life for the better. And as a therapist myself, I definitely know what you're talking about. Just going through the whole training with what I went through definitely made me reevaluate a lot of things about the way I perceive life. And it's such a gratifying feeling when you're helping others.
There's nothing better, really, truly. It's like we're all born, we're all going to die. We know that for a fact. And in between, I just want to know that I'm one of the people that tried to make this crazy journey better for other people. So.
Well, sounds like you're doing a fantastic job at that, and I really commend you on getting into that field. And it sounds like you're very passionate, very personable, and selfless.
You know what? I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Selfless. And that's something that I'm working on. Everybody, we all have things that we need to work on, and I have a habit of putting everybody first. So, I'm trying to have a little bit more fun in my life, allow myself to relax a little bit more and try to get back in there and engage in my own life a little bit more. It's very easy to get carried away with taking care of others because there's so many fucking people out there that need help, right? So when metaphorically, when the well runs dry, we have to find ways to replenish that well. And for me, one of the things that does that is music. When we have the reunion shows, when I'm able to get back into the room with my boys, there's nothing like it. And I know that you know this feeling when you're playing, when you're rehearsing, and especially when you're on stage. For that period of time, everything melts away. There's no anxiety. There's no fear. There's no deadlines. There's no rent. There's no credit card bills. There's just freedom for that 45 minutes to an hour that you're on stage. And it's just a really just amazing thing to experience.
And there's no other feeling like it in the world, man. That
None at all.
endorphin high that it gives you, it's just like, for me, singing is like the most therapeutic thing I can possibly do for myself. And I absolutely love it. I love entertaining people and feeding off, the crowd's energy, whether there's 5 or, 500 people in front of me. It really doesn't matter. I'm up there doing what I love with my brothers, and for that, short period of time that you're doing that, it's like you're escaping into a whole nother reality. So I totally feel you on that one. So, anyways, let's go back and kind of recap on where you're at. You've been out in Richmond for what, like 10 years now?
Well, so I got to Richmond in 2012. I left Richmond in 2015.
Okay.
I was in Connecticut from 2016 to late 2019, and then I moved to the Hudson Valley, New York, and I've been there ever since.
Oh wow! So you've bounced around quite a bit. Interesting.
Dude, I've done so much moving around, and I really don't want to move around much more. So I'm trying to plant my roots and establish a home base. But that home base is not going to be New York.
Right.
I've been here long enough to realize that I don't think that this is quite the place for me. It was fun being up here. It was fun going down to the city. There's a lot of stuff in the area. It's like around Halloween, you can travel up to Salem. You can go to Boston and put around. Weekends in New York City, like all that stuff is awesome. But when COVID hit, it took away all that.
Yeah.
It's like I was just here, and that was a huge bum out. But now I am actually strongly, or more than strongly, thinking about coming back to San Diego, and hopefully by the end of this year or very early next year, I will be back. So.
Oh, right on. Well, we all miss you out here, and you're more than welcome, to come back anytime. You got plenty of support and friends that will definitely have your back. I don't know if you have any family out here, if they're all back in the East Coast, but, we're your family, Mikey, and we love you, bro.
Appreciate that, Sulo. Love you right back, bro. And, I do have family out there, both friends that are family and, and blood relatives as well. So I think coming back to San Diego will be a major homecoming for me. It's been 10 years since I last lived in San Diego, and I'm just ready to be back and be back in the sunshine and experiencing a sense of community again. And I hope I'm able to, make more music with my best friends, and the people that I love, and some of that is in progress right now. So hopefully that continues. That Agent, we did that new version of Run Out of Luck.
That's right. You guys recently just did that.
Yeah, and it turned out so good. It's like it's so fun to do stuff with those guys now that we're all older and better musicians and just know what the hell we're doing. And I actually have 4 more drum tracks already recorded. And we have some other Agent stuff in the works. It's just a matter of everybody kind of finding the time to get together and get into the studio to make it done. But, I'm hoping that we can see a new Agent 51 record come out of this whole thing. It's like, I think from my story, if there's one thing that you can really take away that really matters, it's that, friends and bonds and community is super important to me. And, now that we're older and we have the ability to continue, getting together and nurturing those bonds and creating music together. What a blessing that is. I don't want to throw it away. So even if we're moving at a snail's pace, I think we are going to continue making music. So hopefully one of these days you'll get a new Agent record out of us. And
I know Eric is definitely an advocate for Agent 51. He's very passionate about that band, and I see him, posting things occasionally on social media and whatnot, and there's still a demand for it out there. Your music is definitely timeless, and I'm glad that Agent 51 is still a possibility. I know that Chris may seem a little jaded, but even like lately, I've been trying to really work on swaying him. I mean, I get it. You want to go off and do different things. Like I'm even myself, like going down a direction of starting to do a solo album, which actually Chris helped co-write and sang and play guitar on my debut track, which I'm going to release probably in the next couple weeks. We started working on it pre-pandemic and then finished up all the mixing and mastering, and all the post-production like earlier this year, I think. And, I've just been so sidetracked and trying to figure out like a very unique fashion how to release it. So I haven't released it yet, but I'm excited about that. And I get it, man. Like, you want to go off and do different things. And that's the beauty part about music. You don't necessarily have to stick to one thing. I mean, you can do whatever you want and take it whatever direction you want it to, music is it
100%.
Yeah, beautiful thing. So I'm curious to see what happens when you do finally, end up out here, if that's something that you're, going to commit to. Now, let me ask you this. Is there anything back where you are now in the East Coast holding you back from moving out here?
Not really, not so much. I mean, I have a job out here that I really love, but I'm 99% sure that I'll be able to take that job with me. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal. Thanks to COVID, everything is like remote now. So tele and video therapy is like standard. I do have my parents live out here and they're older, and that has been the hardest thing for me to kind of figure out how to balance that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But, ultimately, it's a 5-hour plane ride if I really have to be back here. And, at some point, like we were talking about earlier about, me tending to sort of be selfless, like at some point I gotta live my life for myself. And I gotta kind of get out there and do the things that I need to feel good and meet my needs. And I think right now that's me getting back to San Diego and being around people that bring the best out of me, and that's those dudes. That's Agent 51. That's Chris Lewis. That's the family that I have out there, the friends that I have, and, all the friendly faces that I'll see around town. So, it's like everything can be complex or everything can be super simple, depending on the spin that you put on it. You had mentioned, like, you don't know if Chris is jaded. I don't know if Chris is jaded either. We talk a lot, but I certainly wouldn't blame him if he was. The dude, he endured a tremendous amount of pressure, being the front man of Agent 51 and having to deal with record labels and expectations and all that bullshit. And shit, I'd probably be pretty jaded too. But, I think that the real beautiful thing is that at this point, we don't have those pressures anymore.
Right.
It's like we need to revisit, that old Agent 51 manifesto from the insert of Red Alert. Doesn't matter if we're playing in front of 15 people or, 50,000. If we're doing it from our heart and we're just making music together because we're friends and that's what we love doing, it's going to be worthwhile.
Right.
No matter what, and I think we're also old enough to realize that life comes first. We don't have to drop everything and go on tour and sacrifice our family and our jobs to be able to make music. We can produce Agent 51 music and it can sound good, and we can do that at a relatively low cost. We can do other projects and put our heart into other projects and, still nurture them and have time for them. Chris's solo project is dope. He's a really great songwriter. And, I actually had the pleasure of playing on 3 songs on that EP. And I recorded 2 more that are like in limbo somewhere. I don't know. They'll probably see the light of day one of these days. But I fully support all my friends and all their projects and everything that they do. And You know, it's just so damn easy, really, to make music these days. I think we should all be full steam ahead. Like, let's take this time and do something important and do something meaningful with it. And, you know, I think over the course of my journey, it's like, for me, that is being there and helping people and supporting people and encouraging people to do their best and experience, you know, positive things. And that's also me engaging in these relationships and creating art with people, and putting it out there. You know, I can't tell you how amazing it is when you create something like an album and you put it out there and people actually want to fucking hear it. You know, there's so many bands that create music that falls on deaf ears, right? Mm-hmm. We happen to be one of the bands that just slipped in. And people actually checked it out and listened to it, and some people liked it. Some people came to our shows, and you know, that, my friend, is a blessing, and it can absolutely be a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. So, you know, one way or another, I'm not going to throw it away. You know, I'll be on stage doing something, you know, something with somebody, because I love it, and it's part of me.
Right on, man. That's once you... In my opinion, once you're a musician, you're always a musician. You may put it down for a little while, but it's always going to be surging through your veins, and eventually you're going to get back to it. Sometimes it takes a good kick in the ass to get to that point, but music is definitely therapeutic. It's got a lot of healing properties and sound frequencies, and I'm trying to integrate that into my scope of practice with what I'm doing now, which is very interesting. And, you know, I think that this world would be a very boring place without it, and a very monotonous, kind of just uncolorful, dark world, in my opinion. I know that sounds a little extreme, but imagine a world without music in it and what it would be like. It wouldn't be a pleasant experience, that's for sure.
Awful, dude. Awful. Yeah. Seriously, there's no life. There's no life without music. I don't think there's ever been a culture in the history of mankind that did not have music, you know? Like that, the old Beastie Boys line, the only thing that saved me has always been music. Dude, music, it's integral. It's part of us. It resonates somewhere deep within our core, and, you know, gives us hope, propels us to continue moving forward. So thank God we have it.
100%. Well, we've reached the end of your time on the King's Couch. One thing I always ask every one of my guests is if there's any impactful message, empowering message you'd like to have our listeners have or leave with.
Yeah. You know, I would say don't give up, you know, and when I say that, I'm not just talking about music and being in a band and playing shows and getting signed. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on life. We're going through a really fucking hard time right now. The world is turned upside down. Everyone's pissed off about something. We're miserable from, you know, a year and a half of being extremely restricted due to a pandemic, and depression, anxiety, and all kinds of other mental health disorders the numbers are out of control. It's through the roof. This is a time where we need to come together, and we need to realize that we are capable of more, right? Everything we experience when we wake up, you know, we get out of bed, we put our feet out on the ground. What we experience is a culmination of our choices and our behaviors. If you find yourself in a place where you are unhappy, if you find yourself in a place where you are miserable, right, and things are really heavy and you don't feel like you can go on anymore, I guarantee you that by re-engaging in your life, making new choices, right, engaging in different behaviors, you will manifest different outcomes.
Right.
You know, people get stuck in that bubble where, you know, the life that they see and the outcomes that they experience, you know, are right in front of them, and they have tunnel vision, and that's all they can see. You know, and we don't realize that there is a wealth of experience outside of that bubble if we just look in different places and we try new things. So do not give up. do not give up hope. We're going to get through this, and shit's going to be better than ever. Sulo King.
I agree, 100%. It's a very optimistic and positive mindset you have there, Mikey. And that's what I love about you, and it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk to you, especially get the chance to hang out with you when you're in town. So hopefully you move back. If you feel like San Diego is calling, then definitely follow your instincts, man. And, you know, if you need any help getting out here, you got plenty of support around you, including myself. And, yeah, that wraps up another episode of The King's Couch. I'm your host, Sulo King, and we will see you guys later. And thanks again, Mikey, for taking the time to sit down and rap out with me.
Thank you, Sulo. Much appreciated. Be well, my friend.
Right on. We'll talk to you soon. You guys take care and stay radical.